Oh. Oh my God. Hello. Oh my God. Oh geez. I wish there was just a 24/7 pizza I could order, because holy shit.
What's up, guys? Did the PFL get screwed? Francis fought one time there. Remember he signed at 23. It was the biggest deal of all time. He was going to be an ambassador for fighters. His opponents were going to get paid very well. But he boxed more than he actually fought MMA. So did the PFL get screwed?
Yeah, I think it looks like the PFL got screwed. It looks like they weren't happy with the deal. They probably overpaid Francis for that first MMA fight. And then he was boxing, and they weren't willing to pay him again. They realized they didn't get the numbers that they needed to. So it looks like they're moving on.
All right, so Francis Ngannou has officially completed the biggest fleece in MMA history, seeing as he's finally been released by the PFL after making them spend probably 100 times more than he made for them. In the 3 years of being a PFL fighter, he fought one singular time to the tune of $10 million while also being given equity in the company, which is absolutely insane. Not to mention, he made them create PFL Africa, where he only showed up to one of the 3 events that took place on African soil, even though he literally lives in Africa. And immediately upon gaining his freedom from the PFL, he's moved on to fighting under Jake Paul's MMA organization, where he's going to be fighting Felipe Lins on Netflix. Like, what is going on here? You know, I really thought that Francis was gonna do the PFL a solid and fight one last time against some fat no-name just to show he's somewhat a decent person, but instead he ran out the clock on his contract so that they were forced to let him go. Listen, I don't like the PFL. They've done a lot of shady shit to a lot of their fighters, including not paying many of their tournament winners the $1 million they promised them, but
What the fuck? Iran just struck an airport. What kind of poor excuse these SJWs make to defend them now?
Oh, well, the crazies are just going to say it's a false flag. And then, you know, people like, what's the thing? Young Turks, they're just not even going to talk about it. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Appreciate it.
wrongs do not make a right. These guys gave every single accommodation imaginable to sign Francis, not even as a fighter, but as a business partner, and instead of helping grow the PFL, he ruined them financially.
Okay, if they're not paying fighters the promise contract, yeah, fuck him. He did the right thing. Screw these people. That's some funny shit.
And yeah, in this video, I'm going to be talking about all this and more.
Do you feel like that was a failure? Do you feel good about your time there? How do you reflect on that?
You know, we can say whatever we want. I have a 2-fight year. I didn't fight that, but eventually I knew that at some point I'm gonna get off of that, right? And then yes, I didn't fight the 2-fight. It didn't go the way that I didn't happen to have the second fight, which I wanted to have it, but I think I had a great run with the PFL. We had a great relationship. all along this time. And then, yes, it's business. He didn't work out. For some reason, they couldn't put on the second fight.
What is this guy talking about? For some reason, the second fight never happened. Dude, you're the reason the second fight never happened. You mean to tell me that since your first PFL fight in October 2024, you couldn't find the time throughout 2025 to make another fight happen against any fighter of your choosing? I mean, he was able to make 2 boxing fights happen within 5 months of each other, but he's somehow not able to schedule a second MMA fight within 15 months of his fight against Renan Ferreira. The way Francis answers this question almost makes it seem like the PFL was being hard to work with and getting another fight set up for him, but I find that impossible to believe considering the lengths they went through in order to acquire this guy. I suppose maybe they weren't able to find the $10 million to pay him, but I also find that hard to believe seeing as they must have allocated budget aside to make sure they could pay him for his 2 fights when they signed him. Like, the PFL knew that they owed him $20 million when he joined. Moreover, the PFL, much like the UFC, is in bed with the Saudis, and $10 million is legitimately nothing to them. I do not believe for one singular moment that the PFL was not interested in having Francis complete the stipulations of his contract. He was by far and away the biggest asset that they had, so I'm positive they're pretty pissed off at him for not holding up his end of the bargain, and I
don't know about that.
blame him. The PFL
They're not paying out any like the other fighters.
gave this guy the sun and the stars to join their organization, even going in
Forgot my name vacation to each other's. Can you ask your mom if you can come to my birthday party? I don't need to ask permission for something like that, but thanks for the donation. Forgot my namification.
as far as giving him an executive position where I'm sure he was given a salary to make 0 decisions, and in return he only fulfilled maybe half of what he promised.
Ruined your legacy because we haven't seen you fight.
What's
boxing.
Give me a definition of legacy.
Your lasting memory in the sport, I guess, is maybe what they would
Like
say.
who?
Muhammad Ali?
Like Muhammad Ali. Okay, let me tell you what's the legacy. My legacy right now is my kids back home, it's my family back home, getting health care, getting security, being able to put food on the table, being able to put roof on their head. That's a better legacy. You can have the Muhammad Ali legacy or whatever you want. If your kid cannot attend to school, he has no place in the society. If your kid doesn't have food in the stomach, that's legacy doesn't help you for anything. You cannot go to the store or to the gas station or to at school and pay the scholar fee with a legacy. You have to understand that this is a bullshit that promotion fit fighter with, and they're all out there fighting for legacy. Good for you. Keep the legacy. Give me my pay.
Okay, I totally get where he's coming from, and I would imagine that a lot of other fighters would agree with him as well. I would argue that outside of the very top level fighters in the sport, money means more to them than their legacy. Take Renato Moicano, for example. He's a popular fighter, people like him, but even he has to know that he's not going to be a Muhammad Ali type of figure whose name is remembered for generations to come. Moicano is constantly talking about how money's the most important thing for him, and in a sport where only 2 or 3 guys out of a given generation of fighters will have a lasting legacy, there's nothing wrong with prioritizing getting paid over becoming a legend. But in regards to Ngannou's statement here, if you're in the rare position like he is where he can have both, why not try to have both? Like, dude, you can provide for your family while also being a good business partner, you know what I'm saying? The reporter references that fans are disappointed in him not fighting, then Francis replies that it's all about the money for him, as if he didn't have another $10 million waiting for him if he fought again for the PFL. I mean, clearly he's making more than $10 million.
That's fishy. Look, if he's not willing to fight for 10 million, that sounds to me like he knows they're not going to be able to pay him.
Continues now with Ryan McBeth, open source intelligence analyst and Army veteran, and Michael Pregent, senior Middle East analyst, former intelligence officer, former senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. Great to have you both with us this morning. Michael, I'll start with you. So the
Paul Shart, Ball Cop, Donny Tillers, Enigma, Dodo. We have talked about him over the years, always wondering who he is. Some of us have come up with theories. Probably a Chinese son of an emperor sitting in a Beijing palace, or a monk high in the mountains of Tibet. Enlighten us, Dodo. Pretty sure he's neither of those. Thanks for that donation, though, dude.
FBI warned police departments in California that Iran could launch drone attacks in the coming days, really at any moment. In your opinion, though, is this really within the capabilities of Iran? How concerned should people in California be?
Well, we know that Iran will use civilian ships to launch drones from, so that's one platform they can use to attack California. The other is Mexico. We know Hezbollah has worked with the cartels. Maybe there's a drone capability there. Again, these are off-the-shelf drone capability you can buy anywhere, not the.
Yeah, dude, if they fuck with the U.S. like that, like they're so cooked. They're not going to do it.
Shahed 136, unless it was from one of those commercial ships. There are also cells operating in the United States that can launch attacks. The biggest concern here is what Iran can do. There are cells here, and they built a brand now where any crazy can go out there and kill an American or launch a drone, and the regime will take credit for it. So that's what we're up against right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned obviously the sleeper cells here in the United States. And of course, we also see Iran going after technology companies, launching a significant cyber attack against medical device giant Stryker. I mean, Ryan, what do you think our biggest worry should be? Is it cyber, or is it these rogue one-off kinds of drone attacks?
Well, it's actually neither of those things. Cyber is a pretty big component, but we have some pretty good cyber defenses. Probably our biggest worry here is losing our will to fight. And when you take a look at the actual Gulf and some of the USVs, the unguided surface vehicles, or the unmanned surface vehicles that you're seeing hitting some tankers in the Gulf, the big worry there is that the world panics and puts pressure on the U.S. to stop fighting. We are at a point right now where we can't kick the can down the road anymore. So the biggest risk isn't cyber, it isn't drones, it's losing our actual will to finish the fight.
Yeah, great point. And we know that all eyes continue to stay on the Strait of Hormuz, the key waterway primarily under Iran's control right now, critical for the transport of 20% of the world's oil every single day. So sources say Tehran began laying mines in the strait as well. The president had this to say. Take a listen.
They started talking about mines, so we hit 28 mine ships as of this moment, 28. Using the same weapon, the exact same weapon that we use against the drug dealers.
So, Michael, reports also suggest that Iran attacked 2 oil tankers in the Gulf overnight. How difficult will it be for the U.S. Navy to really protect shipping in this region?
Well, this is what Iran can do, right? Or what they can't do anymore. They can't fly onto an oil tanker and seize it. That capability is gone. The U.S. would hit that. They can't use their little small boats and go towards the oil tankers and try to seize them as well. But what they
Son Goku donated $2. Let me see. That's a weird way to squat. All right. So this a chick or like some gay dude? I don't know. This looks kind of dumb. Yeah, it looks pretty stupid. Thanks for the donation, Son Goku.
They can do, and what they're best at is using these Shahed 136 drones and also anti-ship missiles. They haven't done the anti-ship missile yet. They've used these drones, and we're looking at this. But as far as those mines, they don't discriminate. They can hit Russian tankers, they can hit Chinese tankers, so it's not a good strategy. And this kind of represents the lack of a command and control structure based on how many people have been killed or how many top leadership have been killed inside of Iran. The Navy's prepared for this, and more importantly, we've provided these assets to our Gulf allies. Every Gulf ally in the Strait of Hormuz has anti-mining capabilities, has U.S. military equipment that we've given them to keep Iran from being able to shut down this choke point for oil and gas.
Yeah, so on that point, both the United Arab Emirates and Qatar say Iran has crossed a red line with them in recent airstrikes. And so, Ryan, how much longer do these nations stay on defense before they start moving to offensive? And do you worry that Iran they know their days are numbered? They're just going to burn the whole thing down?
Well, those are 2 very good questions. That's why I like coming on Newsmax. You ask some very good questions here. The first thing is that countries like Oman, UAE, they can't really go on offense because their militaries really aren't designed for that. They don't have that deep strike capability. They may be able to perform some surface strikes that are close to their borders, or perform maritime patrols to take out things like unmanned surface vehicles, or even do some mine laying stuff. But their Air Force, they can't penetrate deep into Iran and actually hit targets because they're not designed for that. And the second question regarding how long, could Iran burn the thing down? Well, they're running out of missiles, and more importantly, their command and control is being attrited and degraded with every passing day. So even if they wanted to, they might have to do this without, let's say, fuel for the generators that actually raise the missile launchers to vertical in order to fire the missile, or even orders to tell someone to fire the weapon. So you might want to burn the whole thing down. Oh, one other thing, Sifa Bank. That was just hit a couple of days ago. That's a major bank that gives the government payroll. The next time the Iranians get paid is on March 21st. And that's going to be pretty interesting, because if nobody can get paid on March 21st, that's when people might say, you know what, let's turn our guns toward Tehran.
Yep.
No, great.
Get clapped. It's kind of funny, the difference between these, lefty fucktards and people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, it's amazing how much the Young Turks are just completely full of shit.
Does the U.S. do targeting? We've seen lots of targeting in Iran with many successful missions. And
what do you do, say, if you found out Trump was actually an uncle or family member? Nothing.
At least one major mistake. So how do we know what to target and with what weapon to achieve the right effects? I am a little familiar with this, at least 1/3 of the targeting equation, due to work I've done as a contractor. The term we use is find, fix, and finish, although I am part of the find equation. And it's actually called F3EAD, or find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate, but I'll get to all of that. First, we have to find the bad guy, or at least pick up the scent. There's a number of ways to do this, but honestly, most people leave an electronic trail. It's almost impossible to live your life these days without one. And a lot of people think it involves tracking a cell phone, and yeah, that is a component of it. But there is so much more. We might look at where a bad guy has used a credit card, or the address where they filled out an online form for a warranty on their new rice cooker. Even look at the bill for the satellite TV receiver. A lot of that data gets bought by data brokers and is available for open sale on the market. And this is kind of where my involvement ends. In fact, I oftentimes don't even know who my client is. I just give the data to my project manager, go home, order a pizza, crack open a beer, and watch the Washington Nationals. But once we find that person, we begin surveillance. This is the fix phase. It could be from a drone, it might be from a tracking device put on the person's car. If we hacked into things like traffic cameras or license plate readers, we don't even need the tracking device. Heck, sometimes we can even just buy that camera feed or license plate data. And we can even use facial recognition through security cameras to track a person's movement around a city, although that takes a lot of computing power through sensor fusion. Once that target is identified, a few other things come into play. The target gets reviewed by legal. Oftentimes we have what's called an NCV, or non-combatant cutoff value. This is literally the number of innocent civilians we are allowed to kill in order to hit one bad guy. 99% of the time, the NCV is 0. If we are tracking Daddy El Baddy and he's taking his mom to the mosque, we can't hit him. But if his cousin is in the car with him, and we know his cousin is part of a terrorist cell, well, then we get a 2-for-1 deal. And if the NCV is, let's say, 5, that means we can kill 5 innocent people to kill one bad guy. I've heard that exists, but I've never actually seen it. Now, if the NCV is 5 and there's 6 civilians around the vehicle, what do? Well, you call up CENTCOM or AFRICOM or whoever the combatant commander is, and you get permission to perform the strike. And the combatant command will call it up the chain. It might even go all the way up to the president. And 99% of the time, they'll come back with a no, you have to wait. And This is all part of the next part, I should say, is called the CDE, or the collateral damage estimation. If Daddy El Batty drops his kid off at school every day, there's no way in hell we're going to attack near school. But we look at his route and how he travels each day. And what's crazy is that most people have a routine. And most people are only in one of three places. You're either at work, you're at home, or you're shopping or at a restaurant. Most people live their lives no more than 3 miles or maybe a 30-minute walking distance from their house. I mean, think about that. Where is your gym? Where is your grocery store? Where is your church? You might drive 30 miles to work in America, yeah, but when you get home, you don't tend to leave that 3-mile radius. So what happens if everything is perfect? You have PID, or positive identification, on the target. Well, you get the authorization, and you take the shot. Now you get to weaponeering, which is an entirely different job. Here, a team of people try to figure out the best munition to achieve the desired effects on target while doing the minimum amount of damage. If the bad guy is in the corner room of an apartment building, we can put a Hellfire missile directly into that room through a window. If they're riding in a car, we might use a small diameter bomb. We'll wait until there's no traffic on either side of the car and then engage. If the bad guy is underground, we might have to get a little heavy, use a 1,000, 2,000 pound bomb to achieve full effects. We might even send in a team to take out or arrest the target. It all depends.
Congratulations. You get a timeout. You're a fucking retard.
On the commander's intent for the mission. After that, we start the EAD phase of F3 EAD, which is exploit, analyze, and disseminate. So we go to the site of the strike. We gather intel. We might gather DNA to make sure that Daddy El Batty really was Daddy El Batty. We'll also take phones, we'll take hard drives, we'll take laptops like that scene in Zero Dark 30 where they're doing site exploitation. Then we'll analyze that captured material and disseminate, or push the intel out so we can use it for the next target. And that's how you roll up a terrorist cell. Now, everything I just described is more of the counterinsurgency model that I'm moreover familiar with. So in the case of LISCO, or large-scale combat operations like we see in Iran, how are we doing the targeting? Well, I touched on this in my alternate history novel, Lies to Rule Men, where the U.S. attacks the Mormon state of Deseret. You can find this on Amazon or on Audible. But here are the basics. It follows this pattern. You blind the enemy, you isolate the enemy, and then you collapse their...
Apparently it's wrong too of the UK to have defenses on Cyprus to protect their bases that Iran might attack. Also notice how they are waving the Allahu Akbar Islamic Republic flag. Lol.
Isn't Cyprus in a NATO territory? Okay, they're not. He does want to join, apparently. The president. Currently blocked by Turkey. Of course. Fucking Turkey. Why is Turkey even part of NATO, honestly? This is just, like, absolutely psychotic. Insane. Like, how are these people not in jail? You know, isn't it just such a shame that all the people who are willing to, like, blow the, like, plant bombs or commit a mass shooting, like, they're all insane wackos and they're Muslim or something. Like, you're never going to have somebody who's, you know, smart enough to realize, oh, these people need to get wiped off the fucking planet, who's going to, like, do what the, like, you know, terrorists do. But holy shit, do these people need to be fucking disposed of? Like, you'd think this would be a huge priority for a bunch of these governments to get these people to, like, in jail or something, because that is fucking insane. Thanks for the donation, eh?
We don't always have to be on the defensive as
ability to fight. So how do you do that? Essentially, in 7 different phases. Now, during these 7 different phases, legal is constantly involved, from the battalion, or I guess the squadron level, all the way up to the Pentagon. They evaluate each target package. They set up general rules for emergent targets that appear too fast to evaluate properly. And note that this planning process takes months. And there is a way to flex the targets of opportunity. That's the big advantage of our current doctrine, which is called JADO, or Joint All-Domain Operations. The idea is any sensor, any decider, any shooter. A satellite can find a ballistic missile launcher and immediately let a decider know. That decider might be in a bunker or in a command and control plane like an AWACS. Then they send that information to an effector. And usually you choose the most survivable effector that can service that target and survive any kind of counterstrike. So it might be a fighter plane that's nearby with a certain weapons load, or a drone, or a HIMARS system. So sensor, any sensor can detect the target. Any decider can choose, all right, we're going to use this kind of weapon system. And they find that effector, we find that shooter in the pool, and we have them service that target. They might not even know that they're part of that mission. They just get information, go fire a missile at this grid square.
Bingo.
If you want to learn more about this model, I have a link to a video I did about it below. It's called The Plan to Defeat China. Now, air defense is number one. This is the first thing we take out. Typically, we do this through something called SEED, or suppression of enemy air defenses. Think of it like sending the mouse to kill the cat. You fly towards known surface-to-air radar systems and fire missiles that follow that radar beam down to the radar antenna. This is usually done with specialized aircraft such as F-16s equipped for SEED, or Navy EF-18 Growlers. Second targets we go after are command and control. In most cases, you already know where the enemy commanders are likely to be, but when the attack starts, everything lights up. Imagine there was a plane crash in your neighborhood. A lot of people would get on 911 to report the crash. 911 would be flooded, right? Homeowners are calling 911. People driving near the crash are calling 911. People are making calls all over the place. As soon as the strike occurs, the bad guys are going to call their commanders, and their commanders are going to call their units to figure out what's going on. And this puts an enormous...
Frank's Milk Dud Nips donated $2.
Stupid!
Oh, I guess I'm just stupid.
Whoa, easy there, pal. Better to stuff those frustrations deep down and apologize.
Are you deaf or just stupid?
Amount of signals intelligence, or SIGINT, out in the wild. We suck up all that SIGINT, and that leads us to the actual location of commanders. Then we start rolling those commanders up. This does 2 things. First, it kills the commanders who are supporting the operation, and it forces any commanders who remain to constantly change their location. It is a lot harder to coordinate operations while you're moving, so this constant movement further degrades command and control. Also note, I made a video about how John Kiriakou mentioned that Iran has hypersonic missiles that could sink an aircraft carrier. And, maybe they do, but Iran will never be able to fire them, because the people who process the strike orders are either already dead, or they're constantly moving, or as soon as they pick up the phone, they will be dead. Nobody is going to fire a high-value asset like a missile on their own recognizance. Odds are that they will have no idea where to fire it anyway, because the next phase is sensors and radars. So this is phase 3. Now we take out the ability of the enemy to see. It's a little bit easier once we do the surface-to-air missiles, once that threat is destroyed. But after that, we go after the communication stations, radar installations. Could also be satellites in orbit, although Iran only has 2 of them. We might not destroy those satellites, but we can degrade their capability with assets from the Space Force. We may not necessarily use kinetic weapons. We might use cyber attacks. We might use electronic warfare.
It only tells if you gave already seen this. I apologize, or if you don't want to listen, just skip. Apparently she's against Ukraine. Well, no shit.
gave the okay for Ukraine to use our very dangerous, a long-range weapon called ATACMS to attack.
Oh, very dangerous. Yeah, that's what weapons are supposed to do, you dumb bitch. She's a fascist. She's just working for fascist fucking governments. That's all she is.
Deep into Russia. This is insane. This will undoubtedly have a response from Russia.
Oh yeah, what was the response, huh? What happened? What did Russia do, huh? What did they do? Oh yeah, that's right. Dude, I just hope she falls down a fucking big, long flight of stairs.
And it will escalate that conflict. That's not what the American people want. We've seen that in the
No, it's what they want.
opinion polls. We don't want to spend $200 billion plus
No one spent $200 billion.
to keep a war going in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's, that's dumb. Thanks for the donation, eh?
Hey VG, do you think Pascal's wager can be used against egoism?
I don't know what that is. Thanks for the donation, dude.
So any forces on the ground will have no idea what's coming. Fourth phase is air forces and airfields. Fighter planes are just one link in the interception chain. You can't just send fighter planes up in the air. They won't know where to go because we just destroyed all their ground-based radars. So they'll probably be ineffective in their interception and be knocked out of the sky. Airfields are important, but not as important as you think. It's fine to strike aircraft in shelters or on the runway, but we don't necessarily want to take out the runway itself. That's not because taking out the runway isn't useful, but the typical way of taking out a runway is to fly straight down that runway, dropping anti-runway munitions like the French Durandal or the British JP-233, which is no longer in use. And this is extremely dangerous for numerous reasons, mainly because you have to fly low down a known avenue of approach, and the bad guys will set up short-range air defenses right along that approach path. And also, runways are pretty easy to repair. You just bulldoze the craters in, put a mat down, 8 to 12 hours later, you've resumed operations. So the juice isn't always worth the squeeze, and you might also need that runway for your own forces to either land more troops or operate your own fighters from that runway. Next is long-range fires. Now, here you want to kill the archer, not the arrow. Theater air defense like the Patriot or the THAAD aren't a shield as much as they're, you know, that little umbrella that you keep in your car for when it's raining and you have to stop at Kroger on the way home from work to pick up a few things for dinner? Think of theater air defense like Patriot and THAAD as a temporary safety measure. It's an umbrella. Yeah, you're still going to get wet on the way into the supermarket, but you won't be as wet as you'd be without the umbrella. So you have to take out those adversary long-range fires, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drone launchers. This is actually one of the reasons Ukraine keeps getting pounded. We gave them air defense missiles, but we never gave them that long-range precision strike to target Russian bases where attacks are actually coming from. Now, it's a little harder to take out the small drones on the ground like the Shahed, since it could be hidden in so many places, but if we drop a bomb on a commander every time they pick up a phone to order a strike, pretty soon you might have plenty of drones, but no idea where to shoot them at. I mean, I know there's gold in Fort Knox, but I can't go and steal that gold, right? I have the intelligence that it's there, but there's not a darn thing I can do about it. You might know targets are out there, but if you can't see or talk to anyone to tell you where those targets are, there's really not a lot you can do as a person who can fire these weapon systems. The next targets are logistics and sustainment. You might have soldiers who can launch drones, but they're going to have to do it hungry and in the dark. So now we're hitting fuel sites, repair facilities, transportation hubs, ammunition storage, factories, armories, anything that gives the soldier the stuff they need to fight. Most brigades can only last about 72 hours before resupply. Any surface-to-air missile installations that we missed or are mobile are going to run out of fuel. And you can't run the launchers without fuel. The ballistic missiles that are on launcher systems, the generators that raise the actual launch tower up, they don't work without fuel. And meanwhile, as we're doing this, cyber attacks are still going on. The next pay period for Iranian soldiers is on March 21st, which is, I might be pronouncing this wrong.
That'll be very interesting if they're not getting paid. That would be really Yeah. That might be the end of that.
Faradin 1 in their calendar.
Farvardin.
What's going to happen if the army can't get paid because we've cyber attacked their banking system and no one's getting paid? Look, IRG soldiers have a family too, right? They have wives and kids who need to eat, rent is due.
Ugh, gross.
Around that time, no matter how loyal you are to the regime, you might be thinking, the faster this war ends, the sooner I can put food on the table for my family. Maybe I ought to take a rifle and put it where it really belongs. Finally, you go after the actual enemy maneuver formations. In this case, it would normally be IRGC formations because we are most likely hoping that the Artesh or the regular army will rise up and overthrow the regime. Once we start going after army formations, you're going to get diminishing returns. At this point, you're flying close to the ground to identify your targets, and the risk of encountering man-portable air defenses and anti-aircraft artillery kind of goes up. And that's when we're going to start seeing planes get shot down. So that's kind of the ugly reality of war. So counterinsurgency is about finding people and just rolling up those cells. Large-scale war is about dismantling an entire country's ability to fight. First, the radars go dark, the phones stop working, the missiles stop launching, then the fuel runs out. And eventually the army realizes they're alone, hungry, and nobody's answering the phone. And that's when wars usually end. Hey, if you want to grab my Live Laugh launch shirt for Arleigh Burke.
Yeah, so Iran's getting clapped. All this bullshit about, forever war. The U.S. is doing bad. Yeah, sure. Yeah, none of these people are probably getting paid, so yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
Talk lats. So this is an area that I have struggled to grow for years. It's certainly not something that I am genetically predisposed towards using, but I've figured some stuff out that I think will help you. So this video is going to be broken down into 3 parts. The first are going to be biomechanical concepts that I think are worth thinking about that a lot of people never actually do. The second are going to be mistakes that people make that prevent them from actually using and thus developing their lats. And then the third part are going to be a few exercises that I have really benefited from that reference some of these biomechanical concepts. So the first is realizing that, yes, the lats are a shoulder extender, so they're bringing that upper arm down, whether they're doing a pull up or a pull down or a pull over. That is one of the main functions of the lats. However, they're also responsible for depression. So if you want a full stretch on the lats, it's not enough to move the arm overhead. Shrugging up as well will get you more length in this area, especially for the lower lats. And then if you want a full contraction, you can't stay elevated. You need to depress and sort of drive the shoulder down as well as the upper arm. So I see a lot of people moving very, very robotically. They're either staying in a shrugged up position. How often have you seen someone finish a pull-up like this? That's not going to do much for your lats, right? You really want to be driving the shoulders down as well as that upper arm. Second, and this cue has helped me a lot, when you're doing a vertical pull or a diagonal pull, so vertical, diagonal, horizontal, especially when you're doing a diagonal pull or a vertical pull, you do not want to be retracting or staying in retraction. If anything, you want the opposite. You want to be in protraction in this position and then pulling down in front. So if you find yourself doing this, that's not really going to be working your lats. Maybe your upper lats a little bit, the lats. Next, you're way out here and you're almost contracting like this. That's actually going to be a lot less lats than you might think. So don't think about, oh, this is a row, this is diagonal. Grip the bar in your hand. I find that if I grip the bar sort of more in my fingers, it allows me to keep in this position. Whereas if you can allow pull up your way to decent lats, but if you're not, you hear vertical, okay, you're pulling 2 arms, it's a little bit tricky. If you move back, it turns it more. Definitely start pretty.
Yeah, this video is not that interesting.
So this is, quite frankly, glorious. Nick Matau is a brilliant American debater, Israel activist. Don't believe he's Jewish, actually, although I know he's taking a lot of interest in Judaism. We actually had him on JTV a while ago. We should definitely get Nick back on the show. I'm going to reach out to him. But here he is debating Sneako, who is also an American streamer that is deeply, deeply anti-Israel, said a lot of anti-Semitic stuff, converted to Islam, I believe, in 2023. I want to show you some of the clips of they had a several hours long debate. Here's how it all started.
Why do you support Israel if you're not Jewish?
You don't have to be, what? Are you Palestinian?
It's a simple question.
Right, and I'm answering by asking you, are you Palestinian?
No.
Do you support Palestine?
I want them to be freed.
Okay.
A fucking idiot. You can tell by that response too, like this is like such a weaselly lying fucktard. Like he knew where this leads. Like, oh, I'm gonna look stupid asking this, so I'm not even gonna answer honestly in a straightforward manner.
Okay, so you support them. Wow, you just answered your own question. Good job.
But that was just the beginning. Now this one, such an important point,
fucking dumbass.
where Sneako simply could not answer what.
When did the war start? You said 48?
Yes.
In 1936, when they targeted and slaughtered 510 Jews, what was the reason for that if it didn't start till 48, Sneako? Can you answer that without deflecting?
We're talking about this land, these people.
It was literally, I'm talking about the exact same land, Sneako. I'm not talking, literally in Palestine. Why did they target and slaughter 510?
Oh, he literally doesn't know anything about the history. That's why he's getting confused here. Yeah. He doesn't know about any of the massacres that happened before the partition plan.
10 Jews. You said, and I quote, it started in 1948. I wanted to make sure I heard you say that. So can you explain, without deflecting, can you explain why they did that?
No, we're talking about the states of Israel and Palestine.
Oh, so you want to purposely start it only on the convenient year for you, and you want to ignore everything before?
Because you will move. Wow. Because you are trying to talk about it's a conflict between two.
And this is such a crucial point that I feel like people were nervous to make this point a while back. Now people, I hope, since October 7th, since we've all had the clarity of what the Palestinian cause is actually about, we all feel emboldened to state this case clearly. They keep saying, go back to 48. Well, hold on one second, Sneako. Why don't we go back a little bit further as well, just a few years before that? Because if your whole narrative is the Jews did a great original sin of 1948 against the Arabs, then the Arabs are simply resisting, well, then how do you explain the hundreds of Jews that were massacred by Arabs in the 30s or in the 1920s? Well, you can go back even further than that. There was a massacre of Jews in Sfat in the 1830s. Oh, no, we don't want to talk about that. Of course we don't, because that transforms the cause and effect of the conflict. The anti-Israel side like to tell us that it is the Jews who came along and displaced everyone and kicked everyone out and stole the land, and the Arabs are just resisting. But if it turns out that Jews were actually persecuted, displaced, killed, violated, sexually harassed, tortured by Arab and Muslim communities in that land and in surrounding lands,
figured
for years, decades, centuries before that, then your narrative isn't so clean anymore, is it? And this is the point. This is the ultimate strategy of the anti-Israel side, where essentially they try to reverse cause and effect. We actually created a documentary about this on j-tv.plus called The Great Reversal. I'll play a trailer for it at the end, where how cause and effect is deliberately reversed in order to vilify Israel. This happens throughout the conflict, and the documentary goes through the conflict and shows you how they do this at every single time to make it seem like the Jews are the aggressor. It turns out it's the other way around. That's on j-tv.plus.
Yep.
Anyway, let's watch another segment. This one, I've got to tell you, this really had me in fits, this clip.
There is nothing more stupid than a goy sitting here defending a state that allowed Epstein.
You're right.
To
I
rape,
should defend Muslims.
To
You're
rape
right.
children. No, no. Don't deflect now. Don't deflect now.
The guy that deflected to Epstein doesn't want to deflect to his pedophile prophet. Wow, call me. I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked. He deflected to Epstein when nobody brought up Epstein. But the second I brought up Islam, he's like, no. Please don't deflect.
We can talk about that.
Muhammad's Aisha was 4 to 5 years younger. 4 to 5 years younger than Epstein's youngest victim, and they're both equally disgusting.
Are you not going to click this link? You wanted this link before. I couldn't source it, and I'm sourcing it.
Let me read it real quick. Robert Maxwell threatened Mossad. Oh, it says he threatened Mossad. He would expose all he had done for them to the Kremlin. To the Kremlin, that's interesting. Wait, are you going to ignore that part? And to the corridors of power throughout Europe. Oh, it's not just Russia, also European powers. Okay, interesting. Giving powers to Russia and Europe. This is really debunking you. Right. Let's keep going.
What is the subject line?
They tolerated his excess. Hold on, let's keep reading. This is great.
Also, have a look at this one.
I don't harp on anyone if
that's got to be like the thing more than anything else when somebody sends you a link acting like, oh, here's the thing proving you wrong, and then you read it and completely goes against their own narrative. Like, that's when you know you're dealing with like a real full-fledged retard.
If they're part of an organized religion, that's fine.
You said you read 20,000 hadith?
15 to 20,000. Read all of Sahih al-Bukhari, which is about 7,500 hadiths. I read all of Sahih Muslim, and I've read some of the ones beyond that.
Right. Google's saying it's around like 2,000 to 7,000 but
Wait,
maybe
you
you're
don't
reading
know
Shia
your
ones as
own?
well.
No, that's okay. First off, aren't you Muslim?
Yeah, again,
Dude,
there's
Sahih
unreliable and
al-Bukhari
there's specifically reliable.
Sahih al-Bukhari
There's
has
different
7,500
books.
hadiths by itself, dude. How do you not know this?
Dude.
Again, there are different clarifications on how many hadith you.
Oh my god. It's like, why the fuck even do this? I don't fucking get it. Why the fuck does anyone watch this fucktard? Like, he's so fucking stupid. He doesn't know shit about anything. And the guy's like a retarded anti-Semite who lies about being Muslim.
You could believe,
No.
and how many are specifically reliable. There's different interpretations.
Sahih al-Bukhari is reliable. It's Sahih, which means authentic. Do you know what Sahih means?
Yes. Look, the point is, different schools of thought, and different people believe in different amounts of hadith.
Correct.
This is the first time that I heard someone
Sunnis-
say 20,000.
Dude, well, first off, I don't know what you Googled, but Sunni
Wow.
hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari is Sunni, okay? Sahih al-Bukhari by itself, before you even get...
Dodo $92. Let me see. Cuba faces widespread blackout shortages, 400 activists, solidarity groups. Convoy. Oh my god, Hassan Piker and Code Pink. Oh, where's the U.S. Navy to blow them the fuck up? Just to have their boat sink. Like, holy fuck, dude. Fucking Hassan Piker. I hope their fucking boat sinks and they all fucking die. Ted Lieu. 5 U.S. Air Force refueling planes, truck damage on the ground. Instead of posting juvenile animated stupid stuff about how you explain to the American people term miss. Oh my god. Yeah, that's gay.
Why don't you have American flag? Why don't you have American flag? Get the American flag. Don't hate, appreciate. Why don't you have the American flag? Don't hate, appreciate. Keep saying America. Hey, cousin, why you here? It's not a circus. It's not a circus. Clown.
Yeah, I don't like... I don't know how, like, the fuck we got here. Fucking communists.
She thanks her in this article. The quote reads, "We have formed a partnership with the Antonio Placement Center in Constanta. And as we promised, we are doing everything possible to take this friendship further for the benefit of Romanian children. We fell in love with these children and with the idea of repeated help over time. So we included this action in our list of international initiatives. I am happy to collaborate with United Hands Romania Association and Renee Crossman, the president of this organization, but also with the representatives of the Antonio Placement Center." Okay. She says, "Truly thank you to the many Romanians who sent..." I'm sorry, that's me. So like I said, you guys, thank you very much for sending me all of those articles. And
Yeah. Right. Oh, red panda. Oh, it's cold. Oh. He is using it to cool off. Look at that. Oh, he saw that it's cold and lied down right away. Oh, that is nice. Red pandas are so nice. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
And it's Saki Muslim is 7,500. What did you Google exactly? How many hadiths are there? I'm gonna Google that just to see what mine says. It estimates range from tens of thousands to over 100,000. As you can know, it's not focusing, but or over a million actually. It says tens of thousands to over a million. So I don't know what you read.
Total hadith. It depends. Again, it's debated about how many specific hadiths
Okay,
are.
but
how many are
no one in the
reliable.
world would say there's only 2,000 or whatever you said.
Okay, so clearly there's an ignorance there with regard to Islam, which is quite interesting. Then this was quite fun. A whole question around how he's saying that claiming Nick's getting paid for all his posts. The classic thing they say about anyone that's pro-Israel. You must be paid for this.
There's only one person that worships a pedophile. I get paid $10,000 a post. No, actually 20,000. Tell your followers that. $20,000 a post by straight from Bibi Netanyahu to my bank account. So can I ask my question now?
Dodo, donate $2. Thinking about getting to Verizon. Yeah, right. Oh. Oh my god, look at him. He's drooling. Oh. Oh. Oh my god, that's amazing. What? That's his earpiece. Oh my god, are people that stupid? It's his fucking earpiece. Brian Johnston misunderstanding study. Own a dog plus exercise, 63% lower dementia risk. Own a dog, don't exercise. Protective effect of dog ownership. Yeah, that wasn't statistically significant. How does he not understand statistical significance? Is he like fucking retarded? What is that? What does that say? Past and never dog ownership? Wait. I don't know what that says. It's too blurry. But, yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, current dog ownership, no exercise habit. Past and never dog ownership and exercise. I'm confused. I don't know what that says. Past and never? Okay, so it had similar benefit. Just exercising. Okay. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Dodo donates. Kyle's an idiot. Trump bombing Karg Island is a red line according to Iran. Oh. Uh-oh. Iran's upset. Oh, no. This is the most severe escalation yet. The U.S. just unleashed. Right. So what's Iran going to do when they basically have no missiles that they can't use? Expect Iran to obliterate every U.S. business in the region. Yeah. The tons and tons of U.S. businesses in Karg Island. And potentially go after Gulf oil infrastructure and desalination plants. Right, with no weapons that they can use, and nobody's going to get paid. Okay. Dude, Kyle is such a fucking gay dipshit. Trump says on Iranian sleeper cells, could be more than 17. Last 9 months, raiding Home Depot parking lots instead of arresting Iranian terror cells, whatever. I'm kind of like done with these just brain dead fucking political takes on Twitter, dude. Ukrainian soldiers shoot down enemy FPV drones, small arms. Okay.
Do you think you'll ever work out at Diamond's gym with all those screaming chimps?
No, I'm not an idiot. Thanks for the donation.
For the Islamic Republic. Shame, shame, USA.
We proclaim our support for the Islamic Republic. Did he actually say martyrdom is our highest honor? Okay, why is nobody shooting this guy? Like, can the FBI, CIA, like, take these people out? Holy fuck. Alright, thanks for the donation, Dodo.
To humor, you should stick to the...
No, it wasn't humor. Totally true. 100% true. Anyways,
You wait, so you're being honest right now? You're
$20,000 a post. $20,000 a post.
So you are a goy slave.
Yep. That's it. Actually says that on the check. Goy slave, $20,000.
By the way, let's just be clear. As great as the work is that Nick does and other pro-Israel advocates do, $20,000 a post, I'm sorry, is way too much money. So the fact that he even believes that shows us he doesn't... You can't both think that Israel is commercially savvy and clever, and then be stupid enough to be paying $20,000 a post. This was another great clip.
2 million people have famine-like conditions. Is this something you're okay with?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this, but I need you to let me answer, okay? I think it's very easy to ask these virtue signaling questions like, hey, do you think cancer's wrong? Hey, do you think war's bad? Hey, do you think... Yes, Sneako, I think all these things are wrong. What I don't want to answer is when you remove context from a situation and force this like leftist style argument where you force people to answer.
Okay, so who's responsible?
I'm trying to finish. One more sentence and I promise I'll let you go. When you force these arguments to ask vague questions, and when someone answers that vague, like, do you think cancer's bad question? And I say yes, then you go, see, he says cancer's bad. Why doesn't he put more funding into it? Yes, I think war's bad, Sneako. Oh my God, is war bad? Yes, right. I do.
That's right. What they constantly do with the framing. They'll say, do you support war? Do you support civilians dying in war? And remove all the context.
I'm getting genuinely sick to my stomach with how fucking cold it is. Dodo donate $2. Let me see. Iran considering only letting oil tankers through Strait of Hormuz. The cargo is paid in Chinese yuan. Yeah, sure. Right. They can try, they can fail. They have it the other way around. 18-year-old woman, Queensland, faces 2 years in jail for wearing a shirt that says "From River to the Sea." No. That's not why she's getting arrested.
So an 18-year-old woman is one of the 2 people arrested. Her shirt had one of the banned slogans. The crowd could be heard yelling shame as she was taken away. Plenty of police surrounding her. And
oh, is Australia actually that based that they recognize this as an anti-Semitic fucking phrase? Oh, who'd have figured? Okay, everyone's just brain dead. Can I not watch fucking stupid horseshit on Twitter all fucking night? I think you sent me this one already. Those are good cats.
Watch what happens if I slowly lift up the cardboard. The square starts to blur and the light slowly morphs into this perfect circle. And you can try this with any shape. A triangular hole, you still get a circle. A star-shaped hole, still a circle. Even this V shape. So why do all of these different shapes give you a circle? Well, here's a tip. Imagine that the sun were actually of a triangular shape pointing upwards. Well, then the shape on the ground would be a triangle pointing downwards. What's happening is that when the cardboard is high enough, you're no longer looking at the hole, but you're looking at a projection of the light source itself, which in this case is the sun. The cardboard has become the simplest kind of camera, what's known as a pinhole camera. And because the sun is round, the projection on the ground is round too, no matter the shape of the hole. This is also why the dappled light filtering through those random jagged spaces between the tree leaves always makes these perfect little circles on the sidewalk. Subscribe for more. Watch what happens.
That's neat. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Ben Boy, donate $2. I think the cookies and cream flavor isn't as good as the normal cookie dough flavor. Okay, looks like he enjoyed that.
I got my...
Thanks for the donation, Ben.
Why are you long distance dating after telling everyone to never do long distance dating because no girl is special and you can always find a compatible girl close enough to you?
Well, Pat's a special woman. Very, very special. She's the only special girl. Everyone else is a piece of shit. Thanks for the donation, though, 21st.
Tractor, I go up there, because if they don't move, I'm going to physically push their vehicles out into the street. Because they're a private property, I told them that, and told them they're trespassing. They was not moving. Then I start getting flanked from two corners. So I took one, and the other came in and slammed me to the ground. And I'm sure they're showing you video up there, so it should show that.
Can I step in, please?
No.
Well, you're under arrest.
Well, that ain't gonna happen today.
Okay.
You just send me a thing.
Nope.
It's a sunny autumn afternoon in Chillicothe, Ohio, when the Ross County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call reporting a heated dispute between the Roth family and A&S Towing, a company which had recently acquired the plot of land next door.
Hey, we have a huge fight and they're ganging up on one guy. Let go of him. Do not touch me. Get off my property. Get off of him first. That's not fair. There's several people up against him, so shut up. He was threatening our grandma. Hey, stop. Wait.
Has it gone physical?
Yes.
Okay.
Due to the way the properties are laid out, visitors to A&S Towing often mistakenly pull into the Roth family's driveway to park temporarily while conducting business. According to the Roth family, A&S employees had been telling customers it was acceptable to use the driveway, despite no agreement ever being made between the two parties. Whether that claim is accurate remains unclear. What is clear, however, is that on October 26th, 2025, a family visiting A&S did exactly that. Initially, several members of the Roth family told the visitors they needed to move their vehicle, which they did while apologizing for the misunderstanding. But as they began doing so, 58-year-old Brian Roth pulled up in his tractor and blocked them in. That move, ladies and gentlemen, prompted one of the male visitors to confront Brian, and a heated argument quickly followed. During the confrontation, more male Roth family members emerged and eventually attacked the visitor. An ANS employee then ran over to help, and that's when the family members turned their attention to him.
Shut up!
Oh, yes. Typical white trash American nonsense. People have to get into fights about where you're supposed to be parking.
Hey, that means you too. Shut your mouth. Hey, stop, or we're gonna start going to jail.
Well,
I don't feel like doing paperwork.
Pressing charges.
I don't feel like doing paperwork. Go away before I start taking people to jail. So, what happened?
So, I'm not talking till she moves.
Okay.
I'm on my property now.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, now.
All right, then we'll walk over here. Shut up. Stop. Let's. Can we act like adults for 5 minutes, please?
So, since they moved in over there, we've had nothing but problems with people parking over here. It's a continuous thing. We come and tell them, blah, 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 this, that, the other. They're getting ready to move. My husband's upset. He comes out. Then the other guy comes over, running his mouth. They get into it. Then the tow truck guy comes over, pushes on my husband, I guess, because I'm over here, like, cool it. And then he gets on top of my son. Then my daughter helps to get him off.
Where's your husband at?
He went back. He took the tractor to go back to the house.
Okay, well, he needs to come back up here.
Okay. For me to go get Dad. But they're saying they didn't know, and what I was trying to tell them is, I said that I understand that. I said, but this has been going on for a year and a half, almost 2 years since they moved in. If they're running a business and we're telling people, and we're being polite, don't park over here, it's private property. And then she pulls in, she's like, well, you could have told him. Well, why didn't your tow truck guy tell him that they was on private property over here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They said it was all right.
Yeah.
The two people were parking here were told that it was all right to park here.
Okay. So who was the fight between?
It was between my husband and the older guy in the hat.
Was he the truck driver, or?
No, the guy with the green is the truck driver.
Okay, so how did the
guy with the hat, he came over with his bags and was like, don't threaten my mother, whatever. He had stuff in his hands. He threw it down and got in my face.
Okay.
That's when my dad came up.
Okay.
But anyways, when I tried to separate the tow truck driver, that's when he flipped around and threw me down.
Okay.
The woman said it's fine. It was okay for us to do that. So we did, and she asked us to move it. We've come over to move it. Before we could get in the car to move it, and we explained, we're sorry, we accidentally pulled in there because we just found out where it was at. She said, that's fine, they do it all the time. We were getting ready to move it. He comes and gets that tractor. He pulls it right up to this close to my car, like he's gonna ram my car. And my son says, you can't ram her car, that's a felony. And he gets off and he sucker punched my son. My son can't find his glasses. Look what they did to this guy.
Hey, look, you set it up. You get them over here, and I'll take care of this myself.
Just stop.
Okay?
Just stop. I get you're frustrated. I would be too. I just don't want to see it get worse. Who is it that hit you?
I don't know. There's 3 of them.
3 of them?
The old man come and sucker punched me.
We can't find his glasses.
And they're over there stomping around trying to break my damn glasses.
Who is your favorite donator? Is it me? I always send good content. You? 7,777,777,777,777,777 buttholes, penis, cock, riding MILFs, hot sexy Latinas, big fat asses. Sexual intercourse, fucking, cunnilingus, blowjobs, rim job, ass eating, cum, tits, breasts.
Yeah, it's either you or Dodo. Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy.
And 3 of them. Okay, I was just going to video record it, and I wasn't going to let him sit there and get attacked by these people because they was threatening to hit her with a tractor.
And
he went over there to stop that.
And she came, this lady here came, and she says it happens all the time that they do this.
She was already saying, I'm moving the car. She's in the car trying to move it. There was a car behind her.
Yeah.
And then the old man comes out and threatens my mom with a tractor. That's parked right there. Threatening to hit her, and he kept moving up on her. So That's him. He was over here telling him to stop. And then the kid, or the not kid, but the young guy, started beeping up and coming at me. So I dropped the bag to be ready to get attacked, and the old man come out of nowhere and sucker punched me.
And the old man is now in the house. He's hired.
I want charges on every one of them.
This lady here.
I just tried to let it go, let them settle it. I wasn't going to sit there and let that guy keep attacking him. So I shoved him off of him. I shoved him, that was it. And then all these guys attacked me. But they put me in a chokehold, told me in a chokehold. I got the other boy down on the ground.
Do you need an ambulance?
I need an ambulance.
After collecting an initial round of statements from both parties, Ross County Sheriff's deputies focused their attention on the primary suspect, Brian Roth. As you would have heard earlier, after the fight, he returned to his home, a short walk from the recovery site. The simple dispute was about to take a deadly turn.
His
family was all...
Yeah. Hello. So what happened today? What happened?
Trespassing. Take her in.
Okay, come on, Cynthia. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
They came in trespassing. My wife and daughter went up to tell them to move. Time, and they're still up there. They haven't moved. So I grab my tractor. I go up there, because if they don't move, I'm going to physically push their vehicles out into the street. Because they're a private property. I told them that and told them they're trespassing. They was not moving. Then I start getting flanked from fucking two corners. So I took one and fucking the other came in, fucking slammed me to the ground. And I'm sure they're showing you fucking video up there, so it should show that. And it just escalated.
You have your ID with you?
Yeah, you'd think this would be resolved by just putting up a sign saying no parking private property.
Stop, monkey. He's not doing it, monkey.
We're also willing.
Get it out.
That's fine too. Guys having, were there threats being made or what?
No, I just told them to move their shit. If not, I was going to push it out into the street, which is what I was going to do with that tractor right there. If they wouldn't move their vehicles, I would put their vehicles in the street.
Okay.
They just wanted to stand there and argue. They said okay, but stood there and argued and went get in their truck or their vehicle and get the hell out of my property. So I said, well, I'm going to move it then.
Did your tractor make contact?
No,
I'm sorry.
Did not touch it.
Okay. I didn't mean to drop it. I apologize. So you said they started cornering you, and that's...
Yeah, he flanked one from one side of the tree and the other.
Do you plan on telling your girlfriend about Joey and how much you love him? I hope she likes cats. Hope she's going to accept Joey.
Yes, I'm gonna tell her how much I love Joey, and she does indeed love cats. Thanks for the donation, Ethan, though. Appreciate it. Oh man, I am in just so much fucking pain. Oh my god, it hurts. I feel like I need a recovery pizza. Oh, dude. What the hell?
Other that I engaged first was on this side of the tree, then the guy came from the other side of the tree and fucking tackled me like fucking we're playing football or something.
Fucking.
Okay.
And that's when my son
says
went over
fucking
to
a lot.
get him off of him, and then he turned around and was on top of my son.
Okay.
So then my daughter was trying to help get him off my son.
And things are heated, so they might get out of proportion then. I don't know, that's the way I recall it.
So the video I just watched just shows you punching the guy.
So they didn't show the other guy tackling me?
That kind of happened after you punched a guy in the face.
Yeah, the one that was coming towards and fucking shouting at me and shit.
What was he yelling?
I don't remember.
Okay.
If I was to say whatever, it probably wouldn't be right. I don't know what.
Joey is rubbing all over me and spreading his chair. It's all I can do not to devour him. Why are you in pain? I just got here.
Well, I'm just banged up from working out. Ouchie, ouch, ouch. But that's nice. Joey's a good kitty and I love him. Thanks for the donation, Ethan, though.
What the fuck you saying? I don't remember.
Okay.
Things were too heated.
Can I step in, please?
No.
Well, you're under arrest.
Well, that ain't gonna happen today.
Okay.
You just send me a thing.
Nope.
Now he's getting resisting arrest.
Dude, what a wacko. And he's gonna get a gun and shoot at them, right?
Then you better get.
And he took out a gun and was about to shoot the cops.
Raw shots fired!
Buddy, this is over somebody parking in the wrong spot. Because somebody didn't park where he wanted. Like, he ends up getting fucking shot at by the cops. And I think he might be dead. Like...
Ma'am, get on the ground! Get on the ground!
This is some white trash trailer park shit.
Start everywhere. Get back!
Oh my god. And then you got some bitch screaming.
Somebody get her cuffed.
You got eyes on the gun?
Why are women so annoying?
Fort 17, did you copy? I'm reloading.
Hey.
We're calling.
All right.
86, can you have their way?
You good?
I'm good. You hit anywhere?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, we're gonna do this slow.
Yep.
We're gonna try to get eyes on this gun. Sir, do not move.
You're all coming around with them.
You move, you're gonna get shot again. Do not move.
Brian, can you hear us?
Keep your light on. You have eyes on it? I have eyes on him. He's not moving. Stay right where that dog is.
Assault charge. That's all it was.
Hey, if you're gloved up, clear my arm, please. I am.
In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, the scene along State Route 180 was locked down and Brian Roth was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead a short while later. No deputies were injured during the incident. As is standard procedure in officer-related shootings in the state, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation was called in to take over the case. Special agents processed the scene, collected evidence, and executed a search warrant at the Roth's property as part of the independent investigation. That ended up being swift, no one else was charged in relation to the fight, and the Ross County Sheriff's deputies were cleared of any wrongdoing in relation to the shooting.
Wow. Imagine being that stupid. Starts a fight over for no reason because somebody didn't park in the right spot. All he had to say is, "You're not allowed to park there. Can you move, please?" And if it kept happening over and over again, could have just put up a sign saying, "Don't park here." And then starts a fucking fight. And then when the police go to just charge him for assault, grabs a gun. Like, holy shit, dude. All because he was upset somebody parked in the wrong spot. You can't fucking make that shit up. Holy fuck. And I love how these same fucking, like, dumbass white trash fucktards who, like, vote for Trump and shit. Yeah, black people are violent. Nick Fuentes is right. I saw him on Piers Morgan. And, Nick Fuentes is right. The blacks is more violent than the whites. And then, like, these are the fucking trailer park fucktards. Will pull a gun out on a cop because, like, they're gonna get charged for actually committing a fucking crime. Like, it's so stupid. Oh man, that's fucking dumb as shit. All right. Why did that happen? What the fuck? That's weird. Oh. Oh. So does this have something to do with the mods, or yeah, it might. Oh god. Why is that happening every fucking time there's an update for this game? Okay, I do not know what's going on there. Fuck.
masturbation, vaginas, dildo, naked lesbian sex, threesomes, orgies, dicks, glory hole, BDSM, ejaculation, oral sex, anal, anus, rectum, sphincter, phallus, erection, semen, genitalia, farts, poop, throat fuck, hand job, prostate stimulation, fleshlights.
That's nice. Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy. What is this? Did something weird happen? So this is an RE framework issue? Fuck. Oh my god. So fucking stupid. Hey, thanks for the membership, Ben. Let's just see if this launches first. Okay. Looks like it is actually launching now. Alright, let's try reinstalling the mods. Invisible body armor. what that is. Aren't there supposed to be, like, bad guys coming? Oh yeah, there's the Rebecca Chambers.
Where is that? Okay. I'm getting the feeling I'm not wanted around here.
Fuck. Wait, there's still one more, right? Fuck, where is he? Son of a bitch. Fucking asshole. Oh, is this back? Where am I going? Wait, this is where we came in from, right? Oh, dude. Is that gonna open now, or...? So where are we fucking going? Why is he being a bitch? Oh my god. There's one more. You faggot. What an asshole. Dickhead. Uh-oh. It's up there. Oh. I see.
Here at ARC, your movements will be constantly monitored. Do not leave the designated areas without authorization. The recording and transmitting of information is strictly prohibited.
Backup is on the way. Not necessary. I'll neutralize the target myself. Leon Kennedy. We finally meet. I didn't realize I had such a big fan. How about an autograph? I heard you, smartass.
Yay. First try.
Ran into trouble. This guy was one tough bastard.
Coming from you, that's quite the compliment.
They should be nearby. Time to finally get some answers.
Boobas. Sweet, sweet boobas.
Grace, this is where we are. The world is under threat. The technology to control another's will already exists, but it's not efficient at infecting others. I believe Spencer solved that with Elpis. The connection sealed Raccoon City to save it for themselves, and it's been waiting here ever since. This is as far as we could get. If the wrong password is entered, the Ark will be destroyed and Elpis will be lost forever. So tell me, Grace, what's the password?
I don't know.
Of course you do. You're the...
Leon!
Don't embarrass yourself, Mr. Kennedy. You can't beat me.
Aren't we fancy?
Don't move! Oh, wait! You still need me, right?
Come on! Grab time!
I got you.
Are you okay?
Me? I feel like $1 million.
Where does this take us?
Your guess is as good as mine. Time to get off. Come on.
What now? Leon. Leon! Leon, are you okay?
How long was that out?
I don't know. A while. Those marks.
It's T-virus. Stage 3 infection.
If you're so sick, why would you come here?
Stupid question is that, bitch.
Raccoon Raccoon City was where it all began for me. Where it all happened, I couldn't make a difference. So I am here now.
We can't stop Zeno.
He said something about you having a password. What was he talking about?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Hey, here.
I'm going back. I'm gonna destroy Elvis.
I'm coming with you.
No, you're not.
I don't want any more regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in.
If anything happens to me, you promise you'll end this.
I promise.
Come on.
She has a butt. Butt.
Look, there's a door over there.
Train's blocking it, though.
I can check it out for us. You think you can give me a boost?
If you're about to find out.
Oh, shit.
Come on. Watch out for yourself up there, yeah?
I will. Once I go down, there's no getting back up.
Taint.
System locked. Override key required for reactivation. Warning. Threat level orange. Confirmed in storage sector. Critical error. Containment lockdown failure.
There we go. Now he's dead. What's the combination for this? Look. Ugly. What am I supposed to be doing over here? Is there some... No. That's where he was, right? So, what's this? Yeah, what the fuck? So, what am I supposed to be doing in here? Key reader. Oh. I'm stupid. How did I not see that? Can you eat shit? I'm too tired. I'm literally too tired. Fucking can't. Oh, dude, I'm zonked. No, 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 no. I don't think so.
Good morning, everybody. So this morning I had the opportunity to introduce the Stand on Guard Act, which is my first private member's bill. And it's an act that is important, particularly in this moment in time, because the reality is our homes are supposed to be the one place where we can rest and know that we are safe. But across Canada, home invasions are rising, and too many Canadians are living in fear inside their homes. And we have all done it. We walk through the house at night, checking the doors and listening for creaks in the halls. But for too many Canadians, this fear becomes real when intruders break into their homes. Yet, when they defend themselves from criminals who terrorize our neighborhoods, Canadians are forced through long and costly trials just to defend themselves, and no one should be dragged through this process for acting in self-defense.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, what's funny is violent crimes up 55%, firearms crimes are up 130%, and extortion is up 330%. That's since the Liberals took office. It's just psychotic. They literally created a fucking situation where there's a massive increase in home invasions. And then when you just try to defend yourself from a home invader, they arrest you. They let the criminal do whatever the fuck they want, but they'll arrest you. When they're the ones who created this whole like, it's just insane. And then people vote them in. How in the fuck can you vote for a party whose goal it is to increase crime and arrest you when you defend yourself? It's psychotic. Oh, why are Canadians so fucking stupid and gay? Holy fuck, bro. Dodo Donatello's watched full no skip. UAE is so based.
As all eyes on the Middle East remain fixated on the war between Iran and the United States and Israel, the stage is quietly being set behind the scenes for the next great era of conflict in the region that over the long run will be far more consequential than this current war, and which will determine the course of Middle Eastern history for the next decade to come. The emerging Cold War between the Arab world's two greatest and wealthiest powers, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. In many ways, the evidence of this newly emerging Cold War between them is already visibly apparent. In late December of 2025, Saudi warplanes directly bombed a UAE weapons shipment in Yemen that was bound for UAE-backed separatists in the country, while Saudi and Emirati-backed forces in the country openly battled against each other on the ground. Vicious insults were hurled at each other across social media, with Emiratis accusing the Saudis of bullying their smaller neighbor and supporting political Islam, and the Saudis blasting the Emiratis as being anti-Islamic, too pro-Israel, and fueling chaos across the Middle East by supporting separatists. But the emerging Cold War between them extends far beyond Yemen across the greater Middle East and surrounding regions. They support radically different sides in the brutal ongoing civil war in Sudan that is fueling one of the world's deadliest genocides. They support different sides in the looming war in the Horn of Africa, with the UAE backing Abiy Ahmed's government in Ethiopia and the breakaway state of Somaliland, and Saudi Arabia backing the Eritrean and Somalian governments instead. They dramatically diverge on their position relating to Israel, with the UAE recognizing and allying with Israel despite the unresolved Palestinian issue, and Saudi Arabia refusing to do so. They are increasingly bitter economic rivals, with Saudi Arabia's goals to diversify away from oil into the tourism, airline, finance, and AI sectors, directly encroaching on the UAE's regional leads in these industries that they achieved during their own drive to diversify away from oil earlier. And while they used to work together under the logic of a more threatening mutual enemy in the form of the Islamic Republic of Iran that challenged them both,
Dodo Donatello's try not to text and be distracted too much because you need to learn. Yeah, okay, thanks for the donation, Dodo.
that historic logic is eroding away the weaker that Iran becomes through its punishing wars with Israel and the United States, with their historical mutual enemy becoming increasingly removed from the...
Why you still live in Canada, VG? It's a liberal shithole.
Yeah, I know. Pat's gonna move here, though, and I want Pat. Thanks for the donation, Justin Trudeau.
Board in the Middle East, the otherwise natural rivalry between Saudi Arabia and the UAE that has festered just beneath the surface for years is increasingly erupting out into the open, and it will shortly become the dominant geopolitical force that drives whatever happens in the Middle East next for the following decade. And all of this may come as rather surprising to you, since just last decade across the 2010s, Saudi Arabia and the UAE maintained closely aligned foreign policies with one another and were generally seen as solid, reliable allies. Both countries were wary of the staunchly anti-monarchist Islamic revolution in Iran's threats to their monarchies, and viewed Iran's support for proxies across the Middle East as their shared top existential threat, followed by the pro-democracy and Sunni anti-monarchist movements that swept across the region during and after the Arab Spring movement as well. The royal families in both countries were primarily concerned about maintaining their positions of power and the status quo against these external anti-monarchist threats across the 2010s. Both sought the protection of the United States to defend them against these threats, and they did not yet see each other as direct competitors. Much of their friendliness during this earlier era was also built upon the personally cordial relationship between their de facto leaders, Mohammed bin Zayed, or MBZ in the UAE, and Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, in Saudi Arabia. By the circumstances of geography, the UAE found itself in the unenviable position of being a much smaller country wedged in between two larger giants, Iran and Saudi Arabia. After MBZ rose to power in the UAE in 2014, he began pursuing an aggressive foreign policy that was determined to elevate his country's relative position, and which prioritized building a coalition with the Saudis against the Iranians after he had deftly identified that the Saudi kingdom was at that very moment in the midst of a succession crisis that his smaller nation had a once-in-a-generation opportunity to influence and benefit from. By that point, Saudi Arabia had been continually ruled by the many aging children of the kingdom's original founder, Ibn Saud, for the past 60-plus years. In 2015, Ibn Saud's 25th son, Salman, became king at the youthful age of 79, which directly led to an internal power struggle amongst the younger members of the Saudi royal family to become the true power standing behind the throne. Early on in this power struggle, MBZ identified a young and ambitious MBS as his favored candidate and began providing his support and backing, hyping him up through lobbying to the Americans, the Saudis, and other Westerners and solidifying his credibility in the process. The hard work ultimately paid off, and despite MBS only being King Salman's 7th son, MBS was appointed as Saudi Arabia's defense minister in early 2015 at the age of just 29 years old. And a few months later, he was appointed as deputy crown prince, positioning him to control the levers of power in the country thanks to the direct intervention of MBZ and the UAE. And with that, the UAE was able to utilize the far
Why do they all dress like retards in bathrobes?
more powerful Saudi Arabia as effectively a force multiplier of their own ambitions. For years afterwards, the personal relationship between MBZ and MBS blossomed. At 24 years his senior, MBZ reportedly saw a younger version of himself in MBS, a man willing to take risks, someone who understood the radical transformations that were necessary for their countries to survive in a post-oil future, and most importantly of all, a man willing to get his hands dirty to do what was necessary for survival. A sort of mentor-mentee relationship is reported to have developed between them, and the two men pursued closely aligned aggressive foreign policies against their shared enemies and in support of their shared allies and backers. Saudi Arabia, which had been effectively a sleeping giant ruled by cautious old men for generations, suddenly transformed into a revisionist power like the UAE was, under their much younger, new, ambitious leadership. MBS and MBZ sent troops together into Yemen in 2015 to intervene against the Iranian-backed Houthis in the country, and then both men led their countries into the blockade of their neighbor Qatar in 2017, in an attempt to pressure them into distancing from Iran, shutting down Al Jazeera, and ending their alleged support for the Muslim Brotherhood, a transnational Sunni Islamist faction that advocates for a form of political Islam that's generally deemed to be anti-monarchist, and therefore deemed a threat to the Emirati and Saudi royal families. MBS also boldly ordered the kidnapping of Lebanon's prime minister in 2017, and referred to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as the new Hitler. But then, starting in 2018, the first signs of divergence between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and between MBS and MBZ personally, began emerging that would eventually build up into their current full-on Cold War. The war in Yemen against the Iranian-backed Houthis had transformed into a visible quagmire for the Saudis. The deaths of hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen being caused by Saudi Arabia's intervention using American-made weapons generated substantial international criticism, which culminated with the Biden administration suspending U.S. sales of offensive weapons to the Saudis almost immediately after Biden took office in January of 2021. Meanwhile, Houthi missiles and drones began bombing Saudi cities and critical oil infrastructure back in retaliation. The first time that Saudi territory was directly attacked by a foreign power since Saddam did so back during the 1991 Gulf War. While Riyadh and Abu Dhabi's objectives in Yemen also gradually diverged apart from each other. Saudi Arabia were primarily focused on maintaining security along their borders with Yemen, stopping the Houthi drone and missile attacks on their cities, ending the damage being done to their international reputation by the war, and keeping Iranian influence at bay. And they came to see that the best way of doing that was by reunifying Yemen under an internationally recognized central government, where all sides, including the Houthis, shared in power. Meanwhile, the UAE, who was being attacked far less frequently by the Houthis and was also suffering far less political fallout from the intervention, decided to consolidate their expanding influence in Yemen by backing the separatist STC faction, who wanted to secede and recreate the former state of South Yemen, and in the process, secure their influence over the critical Bab el-Mandeb Strait at the southern end of the Red Sea. As a result, the UAE ended up securing its influence over a separatist southern state in Yemen, while the Saudis largely got left behind holding the bag, bogged down in an unwinnable and politically ruinous war in the north against the Houthis. And then, of course, came the killing and dismemberment of the Washington Post's columnist Jamal Khashoggi within the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018, which the CIA quickly concluded had been personally ordered by MBS himself. All of these aggressive actions and controversies turned MBS into something of a pariah in the Western world, which dramatically impacted Saudi Arabia's ability to attract the foreign investors and capital that they needed to diversify away from oil into other industries like tourism and finance. To say nothing of the Houthi missiles and drones that were sometimes bombarding Saudi cities. Perhaps most symbolically of all, in March of 2022, Houthi missiles and drones slammed into a Saudi oil depot and blew it up on the outskirts of the city of Jeddah, just 11 kilometers away from where the Formula One Saudi Grand Prix was actively being hosted at the time. leading to black smoke being visible from the attack directly from the circuit, and probably no doubt influencing drivers, fans, and worst of all, investors' willingness to consider returning again. All of this meant that by 2021 and 2022, MBS and Saudi Arabia decided to abandon their previously aggressive foreign policy that had worked in tandem with the UAE since 2015, but it generated for them significant instability and blowback, and they reverted back to focusing on building up stability, calm, and predictability at home instead to create the environment that they needed to attract all the foreign.
Ben Boyd on Tellers, Daniel Larson update. Federal judge finds Daniel Larson competent to proceed, sets trial date. After months of psychiatric evaluations, testimony from multiple psychiatrists, and an evidentiary hearing, ruled Daniel Larson's competent to proceed. I think Daniel Larson probably has like some weird, extreme, like narcissism or something, because he'll say things that are just completely and utterly delusional, but he knows they're not true. And you see like this predictable behavior with him where if somebody doesn't do what he wants, he'll throw a fit, you know? So probably is competent to stand trial. He's just like a fucked retard. Understands the nature of criminal charges, comprehends court process, meaningfully assist in defense. Well, he's cooked. Yeah, he's gonna have a retarded public defender, and he's a retard, so he's cooked. So, defendant's belief in his relationship and his own celebrity status as a singer model is reinforced by individuals on social media who can encourage these delusions. Yeah, taking antipsychotic medications, symptoms improved. Yeah, so he is a retard. The average of defendant's 2 IQ score evaluations is 72. For intellectual functioning, the standard for an intellectual disability diagnosis is 2 standard deviations below the mean IQ score, which equates to approximately 70 or below. Yeah. He is right there. Right there. Records from 2011 indicate that neither defendant's cognitive skills nor his adaptive functioning were significantly impaired. A doctor testified that she would agree that defendant has borderline cognitive functioning. Agreed that defendant's head injuries could further exacerbate his cognitive abilities. So, yeah, he is certifiably retarded. So what is ASD? Oh, autism spectrum disorder. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, he's like autistic and retarded. Well, yeah, he's cooked. He is gonna go, he should be put away. He doesn't belong in the real world, you know? Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy.
Investment that they required for their Vision 2030 program. MBS's grand idea to diversify the Saudi kingdom away from oil into the tourism, airline business, and finance industries. A vision that would never be successful, with investors fearful of parking their money in projects in a country where they could realistically get blown up in smoke. This shift away from the more aggressive policies of the 2010s meant burying the hatchet and improving their relations with their enemies. Saudi Arabia ended their failed blockade of Qatar in 2021 after having achieved 0 of their objectives there. Qatar maintained relations with Iran, never shut down Al Jazeera, and continued financing Islamist groups across the region. After Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the West sheepishly ended MBS's pariah status by welcoming him back into the fold in order to maintain access to the Saudi oil fields. In 2023, China helped mediate a restoration in relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, while the Saudis also worked hard to reconcile their relations with Turkey as well. They stopped their airstrikes in Yemen completely, abandoned their campaign to permanently remove the Houthis there, and began lobbying for all sides in the war to de-escalate and to form a unity government in Yemen under a power-sharing agreement instead. Whatever it took to stop the Houthis from shooting back at them. Meanwhile, without yet suffering any substantial blowback themselves and with an economy that was already highly diversified away from oil, the UAE under the leadership of MBZ has basically just continued maintaining their same aggressive foreign policy from the 2010s into the 2020s against their perceived threats and to project geopolitical power opportunistically, which has increasingly come to be viewed as running against Saudi Arabia's current interests by MBS. Unlike the Saudis, who began trying to keep countries in the region together in the 2020s in the name of stability, the Emiratis, more often than not, came to support an increasingly large array of separatists in their drive to expand their own influence. In addition to carving out their influence in South Yemen with the Southern Separatist Project, the Emiratis also began backing the Somaliland secessionist project on the other side of the Red Sea in Somalia, developing a new port there at Berbera and quietly accepting Somaliland passports, effectively recognizing Somaliland's independence in everything but name. Further up the Red Sea in Sudan, after the civil war exploded there in 2023, Saudi Arabia and Egypt backed the military government and the Sudanese armed forces, while the UAE immediately backed the rebel rapid support forces instead because they viewed the government as having too many political Islamists from the old Omar al-Bashir regime who were still within their ranks. In Libya, they began supporting the authoritarian Generalissimo Khalifa Haftar in the east, against the more Islamist government in the west that was backed by Qatar and Turkey. While in Syria, following the rise to power of Ahmed al-Shara, a former al-Qaeda-affiliated jihadist, the Saudis offered billions of dollars worth of capital for reconstruction, while the UAE has offered up very little because of their skepticism over al-Shara's jihadist past. In all of these countries, the Saudis began pursuing a pragmatic foreign policy in the 2020s that has been willing to work together with their ideological enemies, like political Islamists, in exchange for stability and calm, keeping conflicts contained and countries together, while the Emiratis have continued a policy of expanding their influence and power and crushing political Islamists abroad wherever they can find them, by fueling more secular separatists across the region in Yemen, Somalia, Sudan, and Libya, especially if they could provide the Emiratis access to ports and resources that their central governments weren't willing or able to provide themselves. And the Saudis reconciled with their old enemies like Iran, Qatar, and Turkey, while the Emiratis maintained their confrontational posture towards them. Thus, as the 2020s have progressed, the Saudis have come to change their view on the UAE from a major ally with shared enemies and goals to a major source of destabilization in the Middle East that is posing a significant threat to the goals of their Vision 2030 economic diversification strategy. Yemen and Sudan in particular are festering wounds of chaos nearby to Saudi Arabia that have substantial risks of geopolitical spillover that the Saudis would very much like to stabilize no matter who ends up in power there, while the Emiratis remain more picky and would like to see non-Islamists in power, and barring that, they'd rather see outright state collapse or cleave off secessionist projects that are more secular and more amenable to them. As opposed to the ideological conflict that drove the Middle East's Cold War in the 2010s between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the emerging Cold War between Saudi Arabia and the UAE in the 2020s is primarily economic in nature. Right now, nearly half of the Saudi economy is still dependent on oil, while the UAE only relies on oil for about 25% of its own economy. In order to diversify further away from oil to secure their future, the Saudis are rapidly investing into alternative industries that the Emiratis have long dominated in their region. Saudi tourism megaprojects like NEOM, the Line, and the Red Sea Project are all designed to transform the Saudi kingdom into a global luxury tourism hotspot, which traditionally has been dominated in the Middle East by the UAE. The Saudis' creation of Riyadh—
Dude, the Line is a fucking joke. Oh my god, the Line. Don't get me started.
There in 2023, and their multi-billion-dollar Riyadh airport expansion is specifically intended to challenge the regional airline dominance of UAE-based carriers like Emirates and Etihad. And the Saudis' declaration in 2022 that government contracts would henceforth only be given to foreign firms who relocated their regional headquarters to Saudi territory was an obvious and direct challenge to Dubai, which for decades has been the epicenter of foreign business operations in the Middle East. In other words, Saudi Arabia is attempting to directly challenge the UAE's current regional dominance in business headquarters, finance, and tourism, while they're also trying to challenge Dubai and Abu Dhabi's positions as the most significant air and logistics links between Asia, Europe, and Africa, with Riyadh and Jeddah as alternatives. Saudi Arabia needs to succeed here in order to guarantee their post-oil future, but to do so means crowding out the UAE and their own already successful diversification away from oil strategy in the process. And the UAE is absolutely determined to never allow that to happen, lest they lose out on their own post-oil future. The Emirati leadership, after all, is well aware that Saudi Arabia is currently threatening to do to them what they themselves had previously done to Bahrain several decades ago. It's hard to imagine this today, but for most of the 20th century, it was actually Bahrain who was the major economic powerhouse in the Persian Gulf. The small island kingdom was the first in the region to discover oil in the early 1930s, which they were able to utilize to gain an economic head start over everyone else. Bahrain astutely invested their oil money to diversify their economy away from oil into different sectors like tourism and finance. And by the 1970s, Bahrain was the undisputed financial center of the Gulf. But then, beginning in the early 1990s, the UAE began increasingly challenging Bahrain's decades of dominance. They established finance centers in Dubai with less regulations and more capital, and began building ambitious, world-famous, headline-grabbing mega-projects that cemented the UAE's location on the map as a luxury tourism hotspot. Places like the Burj Al Arab, the world's first 7-star hotel, the Palm Jumeirah and other reclaimed islands, and the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. By the middle of the 1990s, and certainly by the early 2000s, the UAE had managed to use this strategy to eclipse Bahrain in virtually every sector of the economy, from finance to tourism. And now, the Saudis are adopting these exact same strategies today that the Emiratis had used against Bahrain 30 years ago. While they're also increasingly competing in another new major potential source of diversification away from oil too, the realm of artificial intelligence, or AI. Both countries in the 2020s have come to view AI as a possible guarantee of their post-oil futures. They know how important the AI race is this decade between the US and China, and they know that if they can manage to lock in an indispensable position within the AI supply chain to the Americans, they can also secure a firm American commitment to defending their national security in an increasingly uncertain world. Basically pulling off something similar to what Taiwan managed to do in the semiconductor supply chain by guaranteeing US military support through carving out an indispensable niche to them in the semiconductor manufacturing process. Both governments have already pledged tens of billions of dollars into AI-related investments just since 2024, including through some pretty sketchy Saudi deals with the Americans. Most notably, the Wall Street Journal recently reported that just 4 days before Donald Trump's inauguration in January of 2026, the UAE government quietly agreed to purchase a 49% stake in the Trump family's then struggling cryptocurrency company that had no active products called World Liberty Financial for $500 million, $187 million of which directly flowed to entities under the Trump family's personal ownership, marking the first time in US history that a foreign government purchased a major ownership stake in an incoming president's company.
Yeah, that's insane. Donators, are you learning? Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning, all right. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Then, curiously, just a couple of months later, the new Trump administration agreed to allow the UAE to import 500,000 of NVIDIA's most powerful AI chips to build one of the world's largest AI data center clusters, ignoring all of the intelligence community's previous fears that doing so would allow the UAE to pass on NVIDIA's critical technology to China. The hope of the UAE, no doubt, is to try and hook themselves to America's emerging AI industry as much as possible over the Saudis through any means necessary, including through exploiting what seems to be a pretty open case of corruption within the current American government. If they are successful, then they can guarantee America's military support in an uncertain future the same kind of way that Taiwan has, while the Saudis are pushing ahead for their own AI industry for the exact same reasons. Perhaps the biggest point of divergence between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, however, have been their radically different approaches towards Israel. Historically, both countries, along with most of the rest of the Arab and Muslim worlds, refused to normalize their relations with Israel without a solution to the Palestinian question that resulted in a fully independent Palestinian state. But then, in 2020, the UAE suddenly decided to abandon this long, unified approach and fully normalize their own relations with Israel, without any solution to the question of Palestinian statehood, undermining the Saudis' own position. Afterwards, the UAE was able to successfully mediate for Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan, normalizing their relations with Israel as well. Pushing even further forward, the Emiratis rapidly increased their security cooperation and intelligence sharing with Israel in a relationship that increasingly became more than just simple recognition, but a full-blown alliance. By 2021, the UAE and Israel were conducting joint naval exercises together in the Red Sea, and allegedly even developed a joint listening post together on the Yemeni islands of Socotra and Perim, in order to maintain surveillance operations on the Houthis. Meanwhile, the value of trade between Israel and the UAE grew exponentially from only a couple $100 million a year in 2020 to more than $3 billion a year by 2023. For a few years there, the Israelis believed that the UAE were going to help deliver them the greatest prize of all, normalization with Saudi Arabia without giving the Palestinians an independent state. Indeed, by September of 2023, MBS himself exclaimed during an interview on Fox News that they were merely weeks away from finalizing such a deal. But then instead, a few weeks passed by and Hamas launched their attack on Israel on October 7th, kickstarting the series of wars that have rocked the Middle East ever since, that have pushed the Israelis and Saudis even further apart, and the Israelis and Emiratis even closer together. Israel almost overnight shifted from a status quo power in the Middle East to a revisionist power, fitting more in line with the UAE's historically aggressive foreign policy posture. The Israelis flattened Gaza and defamed Hamas, escalated their operations across the West Bank, bombarded Lebanon from the air and launched a ground invasion that decapitated Hezbollah's leadership, repeatedly bombed Syria, destroying the country's air defenses and contributing to the Assad regime's collapse, before launching another ground invasion near the Golan Heights, repeatedly bombed the Houthis in Yemen, and have launched repeated waves of massive airstrikes directly against Iran in cooperation with the Americans, which has resulted in even more blowback the Saudis didn't ask for, with Iranian drones and missiles now being fired directly at critical Saudi oil infrastructure. And nearly all of these Israeli attacks were also waged against the UAE's own regional political Islamist enemies as well. In Syria, Israel and the UAE both came to support the secessionist Druze faction that emerged in the south of the country. Then in early 2026 in Somalia, Israel chose to go even further than the UAE had ever done and became the first UN member state to formally recognize Somaliland's independence there, widely viewed as a move by the Israelis to establish a permanent military presence in Somaliland to maintain a force more closely located to the Houthis, and a deal that was likely mediated by the UAE in order to gain Israel's support for their port development project at Berbera. Shortly before this, MBS was personally visiting with US President Donald Trump in Washington at the tail end of 2025, where he allegedly requested that the US begin sanctioning the UAE over the Emirati support of the RSF in Sudan, who had just perpetrated a massacre of potentially tens of thousands of sub-Saharan African people in a matter of days in the city of El Fasher in Darfur, and who the US government has also formally recognized as being guilty of committing genocide in Darfur. Possibly in retaliation for this, the UAE then seemingly gave their backed STC separatist faction in Yemen the green light to launch a new offensive against the Saudi-backed unity government in the country. Their surprise offensive rapidly overran the Saudi-backed side's positions across the east of Yemen, which led the STC to threaten a formal declaration of independence and to subsequently recognize Israel as an independent state in a broader geopolitical coordination with the UAE. But Saudi Arabia decided to immediately respond by bombing Emirati weapons shipments that were going to the STC directly, and then backed their own side's counteroffensive with direct air support against the STC that rapidly reversed all of the STC's gains, and then resulted in their complete collapse. And in the process, also resulting in the complete collapse of the UAE's presence and influence in Yemen as well. After Israel recognized Somaliland's independence with the obvious mediation of the UAE behind the scenes, Somalia retaliated with fury by severing all of their diplomatic relations with the UAE, expelling the UAE military from the country, and canceling all of their previous financial contracts with the UAE as well. Somalia even went so far as to call for the Saudis to lead a military intervention into the country to help restore the government's lost authority over Somaliland, something which the Saudis, so far, have been reluctant to do, unlike in Yemen. And most alarmingly of all to the Saudis, the Israelis were even bold enough to conduct an airstrike in Doha, the capital city of Qatar, which targeted Hamas's leadership who were being housed in a Qatari government residential complex. That Israeli attack on the territory of Qatar particularly shocked the Saudi leadership, because it showed that if the Israelis were willing to bomb the territory of Qatar, a major non-NATO ally of the United States, who also hosts America's biggest military base in the Middle East, they were probably willing to bomb the territory of just about anyone else too, including Saudi Arabia. So, while Saudi Arabia historically viewed the Iranians as the largest source of destabilization in the Middle East, and the biggest threat to the stability they required for the Vision 2030 diversification away from oil program, they have increasingly come to view Israel and the UAE as being the biggest threats to that stability instead now. With Israel and the UAE pretty much supporting all of the same separatist factions in Syria, Yemen, and Somalia that threaten to tear those states apart, Israel directly bombing multiple countries from Lebanon to Syria to Yemen to Iran and even to Qatar, and with the UAE fueling the civil war in Sudan through their support of the RSF and their attempt to shear off southern Yemen, Saudi Arabia also now deeply fears strategic encirclement by this new Israel-UAE axis, and fears that together, the Israelis and the Emiratis are openly pushing towards full-blown Middle Eastern hegemony under their own terms that could directly challenge Saudi Arabia's capability to successfully diversify away from oil. Moreover, Saudi Arabia's capability and willingness to recognize Israel and join them has become effectively impossible in the post-October 7th world. Israel's obliteration of Gaza and its genocidal retaliation against the Palestinians there.
Uh-oh. He said the magic words. Well, that guy's a faggot. Imagine being that much of a fag. Bunch of dogs going to school. Those are dogs.
Really? Lincoln! Lincoln, where are you? Go sit down. Jake, come on, go find a seat. Where's Lincoln? Come on, you guys, let's go. Hanky. Come on, Phoebes. Lincoln, it's time to go home. Good girl, Phoebe. Come on. Go sit down. Come on.
Dodo Donatillers, I know you wouldn't like when he said that. Also, can you finish it and watch the rest, though? Because it's not really about Gaza. Do I have to?
They could directly challenge Saudi Arabia.
Fine. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
You guys gotta go sit down. No, go. Go. Jake, no. In the back. Go. Brooke, go sit down. Good girl, Phoebe. Lincoln, come on. It's time to go.
Doesn't want to go home.
Come on, boys. Let's go. Oh, the fun's
Oh,
over.
they don't want to go home.
Really? Go, boy.
Oh.
Apollo.
She's having
Everyone
too much
will stand and
fun.
get the bus, and then I will go back and get Apollo.
Arabia's capability to successfully diversify away from oil retaliation. August of 2023 found that 43% of Saudi Arabia's citizens, at that point before the war had started, supported normalizing business and economic ties with the Israelis. But by December of 2023, just a few months later, after the war had started, that ratio had already plummeted to just 17% instead.
This is all a retarded joke. This is the whole Uncle Tom Muslim thing. That's what this is over. None of them give a fuck about Palestinians. They've not accepted one single Palestinian refugee. They all know they're retarded assholes. They're just worried about being the Uncle Tom of the Muslim world. That's all it is.
Well, an overwhelming 96% of Saudi respondents said that Arab countries should immediately sever all of their relations with Israel. MBS knows that with numbers like that at home, there is no conceivable way that he can ever lead Saudi Arabia into recognizing Israel without generating an existential internal crisis so severe that it could threaten his own regime and possibly even his own life.
You know what I'd do if I was the Saudi king? I'd convert to Judaism.
The UAE has been able to maintain their relationship with Israel largely because they have such a dramatically smaller population. About 90% of the UAE's population are foreigners these days, and there's only a little over 1 million actual Emirati citizens. By contrast, only about 43% of Saudi Arabia's population are foreigners, and they have about 20 million Saudi citizens' opinions to actually worry about, a substantial number of whom also follow the much more hardline Wahhabi school of Sunni Islam. The UAE has a far smaller population of their own citizens who they must fear by cooperating with Israel, while Saudi Arabia, with their control of the two holiest sites in Islam in Mecca and Medina, must also take worldwide Muslim opinion into account with their foreign policy decisions that the UAE simply doesn't experience. Moreover, the Saudis have also basically gotten everything they would have wanted out of recognizing Israel without actually having to do it anyway. During MBS's most recent visit to the White House in 2025, when he allegedly asked for American sanctions.
New Frank Short.
Bro, how did I not see it? Meager insurance. I mean, I have a bad memory and I tend to forget vocabulary a lot. So paying attention to the names of companies is super important for certain hints. And the one that comes to mind is with all the crypto scamming and stuff, Sam Bankman-Fried. Bank fraud. They really like to rub it in your face. So meager insurance will give you a meager rate when you go to them. The rate will be so low because they don't actually pay out their clients. And the actual legal definition of meager is lacking in quantity or quality, lean or thin. It's not a good thing. It's a very strange name. Bro, how did I...
It's weird how he acts like such a whiny baby when anything doesn't go his way. And he just makes video after video after video complaining. Thanks for the donation though, Fran.
Sanctions on the UAE over what's going on in Sudan, he also managed to secure the Trump administration's elevation of Saudi Arabia to major non-NATO ally status, the sale of the F-35 fighter jet to his kingdom, and American technological assistance with a civilian nuclear power program. Basically, all of the things that the previous Biden administration had been dangling in front of Saudi Arabia as the carrots they'd give for recognizing Israel. Now that Trump gave them all of the carrots without them having to recognize Israel, on top of the higher reputational and instability costs that they'd pay for recognizing Israel now after Gaza's destruction, why on earth would the Saudis ever actually do so? They're simply not going to do it, and there's basically nothing that can be done to make them do it now, which is only further fueling the divergence taking place between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. There are effectively two different webs of alliances in the Middle East and the periphery that are forming right now, one being led by Saudi Arabia and the other being led by the UAE and Israel. Shortly after the Israeli airstrike on Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan agreed to sign an unprecedented mutual defense pact that's similar to NATO, pledging each
Cord and Atillers, peptides fixed my shoulder, now on a true tide, afraid of test side effects. Atrophy of what? Hair loss. What are the risks and best exit protocol? Why the fuck would you ever stop taking test? Need an objective guide on managing side effects and tapering off safely to maintain health. Okay, congratulations, you're a retard. Thanks for the donation, Cora.
Each other to the other's military defense if they are attacked by someone else, and which might also, at least in theory, place Saudi Arabia under Pakistan's nuclear weapons umbrella. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have also both recently confirmed that they are actively in discussions to add Turkey into this mutual defense pact as well, who have their own concerns about the ascendance of Israel and
Yeah, and you can see how well that Pakistan deal is working out, right? Like, oh my god, dude. Just... These people are all fucking clowns.
the UAE in the region, in an emerging defense pact that some analysts are calling the Islamic NATO. Qatar, long a promoter of political Islam and a key ally of Erdogan's Turkey in that project, is also going to be a presumable member of the Saudi-led camp now, along with El-Sisi's Egypt, largely due to the UAE support of the RSF in Sudan, and their support of Abiy Ahmed's Ethiopia and his mega dam on the Nile that threatens their water source. On the other side are the UAE and Israel, along with other Muslim countries who have with the latest war for two here as well.
Okay. That's great. That's really great. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed now. But big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. The thing. So, doing tomorrow. You know. I don't have to train tomorrow, so I should just, you know, be on at a normal time and whatnot. But, thanks again, everyone. Nighty-night. Sweet dreams. Oh no, not a cat.